Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 146 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to finish upgrading our factory and getting ready for crystals. Enjoy. So now that we have crystal dust and alien bacteria, cellulose paste, and glass, which is on the LTN network, we can make crystal seeds. And those crystal seeds can be added to the fish water and go down the whole chain to make the crystals. However, we'll also need to make crystal slurry, but that slurry can be made from both the dust as a result of processing these, and also what's being sent from down here. The only thing left is the grindstones. And the grindstones need crystal powder, which will be available, or we can make it from dust if we need to, and steel and carbon, which is already on the LTN network. It's going to require a huge furnace setup to make this happen. But the important thing is that all of this stuff is already on the network. The only thing that isn't is silicon ingots, because that's kind of a weird thing to be on the LTN network right now. However, silicon powder is a decent thing to put on the network, because powder does go into a little bit of stuff. Goes into silicon carbide, which is what we need. That really only goes into grinding wheels. But it also makes silicon nitride, which goes into quite a bit of stuff. So it makes sense to put the dust on the network here. And it's a little awkward, but when you think about it, it is a final product. So if the silicon is here, there's really no reason to put this train station in a weird spot. It might as well be in line with everything else here. And moving to the left is going to be kind of annoying because of the position of the train depot. I know when I place it there, I'm like, well, we can put it wherever we want later. That is still true. But other than this, with these belts, there's really no disadvantage to putting that silicon dust over here as opposed to here. Well, other than, I guess, needing a bunch of landfill to make it happen. But landfill is easier than moving a train depot, so I think I'm going to do that. But I'm thinking, we have the silicon here, and it's already going up and over to going into making iron there. So we can have another one coming up and over, then down here. So setting it up for silicon powder should be pretty straightforward. Just 12.6 machines, and then we'll need everything necessary for an LTN train stop, and lots of landfill, basically. So as far as landfill, what would we need? Well, how about all of it, because who knows? It disappears rather quickly, and, well, this will be a very short setup if there's not enough room for the landfill to make this. I'm not going to worry about adding an extra train to the depot, because you don't need to have one train for every single station. It only becomes a problem if the trains are too busy. We probably don't need a ton of space. You never know when any of this stuff might expand, so we probably should build it in, assuming some amount of space is going to be required. Well, let's build it out to at least the end of the loop and then see what it looks like. Let's kind of just copy this real quick just to see how far it would need to go. So I want to try to make it have the same amount of space. That's actually pretty good. Okay, let's just place that in there so we have an idea of alignment. Then we'll build the setup and get it in there. Not much to the setup though. 12.6 machines. So it's just silicon powder, red belts going in, red belts going out. So 8, 12, and then one more set here. And that's basically all there is to it. And we can kind of line it up with that center line right there. And then getting silicon in here just needs a nice long belt, but I'm kind of worried that we're not going to have enough silicon to actually see if this works or not. But it looks like we got to get that logic in there, so we'll just copy it over. And we'll go along here. Oh, those are pretty fast machines. Let's see if we have enough landfill to make this happen. Well, for one, we probably don't need to go up the whole way, because we can use some bridges. And we can basically copy this whole thing, because it's all set up. And then just line it up with the output here. An LTN combinator. And we'll call this silicon powder load. Get this set to a correct network. I mean, technically, it is part of the coil network. So I guess we can leave it there. And at least with that, we can hook this up. I'm kind of worried that we're not going to have enough silicon to fill up this train. But the process is beginning. So yeah, what's silicon going to look like? I mean, we are going through that. And well, there's the answer. That we are soon going to run out. So that's kind of a problem. See, limiting factor right now is nickel and tin. So probably some military research might help for a little while. Let's go for some of the biggest researches we can. Well, spiked walls would be nice. So the biters get hurt when they hit it. That's going to take 1,500 research. So that's quite a bit. And that's definitely something we'd want to put on the new bus. Instead of making concrete walls, we can make the spiked walls. Takes a huge amount of steel though, but that's no problem. But we'll hit that. Get this whole process going. And because it's LTN related, we actually have to make an LTN request first before everything will start moving. How close are we to making a request? Actually, we're kind of far, because we're only 6.3 low on the invar there, so it might take a little while. But actually, research is going fairly quickly, considering the volume related to this. Yeah, it's kind of interesting where we're consuming resources now, but the ore bus is completely stationary because it is separated by logistics systems. So until a logistics request is made, that ore bus is going to be dormant. Looks like we're about ready to make a brass request, as well as a circuit board request. And these have all caught up, so the burst capacity is over. But it seems to be running pretty good. So there goes a brass. So that's starting. But brass is copper and zinc, so that doesn't really help us much. Because we do have a lot of copper and a lot of zinc, but those aren't really the limiting factors here. And a basic circuit board request. It's always neat to see the train is getting filled up with fuel. Seems like the factory is pretty good on a lot of resources right now, so we're actually quite full. There's one slight optimization we can do. And that's just to stop making concrete, because concrete does use silicon. It's not a huge amount of silicon, but it is something. So since we're short, we'll just unhook it for now and see what we can accomplish. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that's how that would work. So the train got filled exactly with the number of circuit boards it needs, but it's not moving yet because technically loading with fuel is considered interrupting the inactivity. And I didn't know that's how it worked. So it means all these trains didn't really need any fuel. They just needed enough to get forward to get here, and then they would just sit there long enough for them to get filled up. Okay, research is done. We want to try to keep using up some nickel here. Let's do some energy weapon upgrades. Hey, we made an Invar plate request finally. So Invar is being requested. Starting to use up that nickel, which is starting the processing. And then once that gets below 80,000, we just need tin. And looks like we're back down to the efficient method of making copper and iron. Hey, the bus is starting up a little bit because our nickel went down. So we're producing small amounts of silicon again, which means we're making geodes. Those geodes are getting crushed into dust. The crushed stone's just going on its way. Dust is making it in here, getting slowly processed. And right now, since we're not backed up, it's making them all into catalysts, but of course that's going to fill up rather quickly. Making some more requests for Invar, that's always good. But we backed up on these. Now it's continuing to consume dust, filling up the pipes to all these machines. And research is done. Well, one thing we can work on are these energy shields. It's going to be a little interesting because we don't really have a lot of space for shields, at least in real time. It's just really hard to power them with solar panels, but we might be able to make it work. So we'll hit that research. And might as well grab the same stuff now. For vehicles, it almost certainly will work, because they're not going to be constantly getting shot by biters all the time. So that'll definitely help for vehicles. But this is going to keep running until it fills up on crystal seedlings. Then it's going to back up and finally start sending resources down to the train. Because the way I'm looking at it here is there's kind of no point in going further with the build if we don't even have access to the resources that we need in order to continue. So we might as well get these trains filled up first. But producing lots of stone, making landfill, which we need. And look at that, we topped off on nitric acid. We are going to fill up on aluminum again soon, and that is the thing that is very difficult to get rid of, because we're not actually consuming it for anything yet. I kind of want to go down there and put a buffer in there for aluminum, because we are absolutely going to use a ton of aluminum eventually. Because you look at these aluminum plates, and they go into so much stuff. A lot of stuff we can manufacture already. So when we actually put aluminum on the bus and are making all these things, it is going to disappear. So I'm not too concerned with the idea of holding on to extra aluminum for now, simply because it's only a matter of time before we use the rest of that, and we will use it. Because I want to keep the ore bus continuing to process ore, because we really need silicon to take this further into modules. So we need to do everything we can to produce more. And it looks like it's basically filled up. So let's just put a random buffer warehouse right here. Ah, how did my inventory get full? Must have ran over something and picked it up. Well, that's always annoying when that happens, but there we go. So we'll just have a buffer warehouse with an input that'll go in there if, say... Oh, that doesn't reach. That's annoying. The aluminum ore is more than, let's say, 70,000. So just fill that up. Let's see, one other thing we need to build. It's not listed on here, but we need to be able to produce crystal slurry, which requires sulfuric acid, and we don't actually have a sulfuric acid train anymore because we removed the station that used to be down here. But we can kind of put it up here. It's going to be kind of funny with this in the middle, but we could just extend this down, put another station there, and put sulfuric acid on the network. That's a pretty common thing that we're going to want to go all over the place. It's just right now we have the mining acids taken care of. Let's see, we're still full on mineralized water. That's probably a power thing. Yeah, but this warehouse isn't quite full yet. So are all these running? Kind of. We're short on fuel oil. So is all this going at full blast? Kind of. Although some of these inserters seem like they're running a little slow. I mean, it seems to be going. This is more or less going at full blast. And we are holding on to nutrient pulp now, so we are losing a little bit of our fuel that way. But we need another station, which will look very similar to this one. Probably need to put this pipe in a different spot. Okay, vehicle shields are done. Let's see, we've got energy weapon damage 3 we can do. Grab that. And we'll call this sulfuric acid load. And there should be some acid around here somewhere we can grab. So we've got to find some clever way of getting acid in here. Probably just like this. It would be cleaner if it wasn't completely lined up with the other one. But I kind of want it to be. Just for ease of understanding. And there we go. Wait, that's gas, though. That is the wrong thing. Needs to be acid. So let's get these drained. Clear the system. And go back in. There we go, acid. And production is continuing. Slowly. But we're getting more and more silicon out there. We've topped up on dust. And now the excess is being sent around. And being placed in this train. Although, I think the numbers on that train is going to be wrong. Which is something we need to keep in mind with any new train constructions we do. Is that if we build them with the second tier of train technology, they can hold more stuff. Which means the buffers need to be bigger. So this is train 2. Which means each one of these needs to be 60 slots. That also applies up here, but we're probably going to need to upgrade every train. I'm not sure if LTN is smart enough to send a train of the correct size in the cargo wagons. I don't know if it can tell the difference or not. Never tested that. So probably want to upgrade all of these at the same time. It's interesting, oxygen gas isn't making it up here, but we did just start making sulfuric acid, so is that because this whole thing is filled up? More or less. Although it doesn't all seem to be running. It's a limitation of this belt right here. Doesn't seem to be fast enough. Let's see, and these ones aren't running at all. And these belts are really clogging up. Could just be they're not fast enough. Well, luckily, we have faster machines that we can just plop in there, and hopefully that'll make the difference. Seems like the inserters are more or less the correct speed. So this last machine isn't running because it's not getting purified water, but that kind of doesn't matter because these machines are faster now. So they're totally keeping up. You see that this isn't being backed up or anything. But they are doing just fine. We are building up a little bit of oxygen here. And the factory's filled up on mineralized water. Well, I have no idea if it's going to help. But let's put a pump in here just to help pressurize the system and get it moving along. Well, I don't like the idea of wasting any of this, but if this system stays full, then that's what we're going to have to do. Let's do an inline tank here, too. Just to see how that works. Energy weapons are done. We're still clogged. So let's upgrade our gun one more time. And let's put another clarifier in here. We've already got a nice big one. In this spot, let's just put it in line, but lined up with the other one. Like right here. And safe mineralized water is above 40 to run. Let's see, it seems like we've never really needed a bunch of clarifiers for these. Like, I've never really seen any more than, well, like 3 of them running here. So they probably don't need to be so big. Let's make them about a cube of 4 here. And that will hopefully help, and it looks like they're all finally catching up. Of course, now I think we're also catching up on oxygen. Well, kind of. These aren't running. Are we overloaded on hydrogen now? Probably. Yeah, we're burning it. It's just, it doesn't disappear very quickly. Well, unless I want to dump hydrogen, which I'm not terribly sure that I want to do, because it's quite useful. I think we're just going to have to leave it as is. Close enough. So, how are we doing on the bus? Well, still kind of clogged. And silicon, has that actually filled up yet? Okay, it looks like it just happened. Or at least it just filled up the station, so a train can come through. And it should now be visible on the network, which it is. So that's probably enough for that system to continue. However, crystal dust is still pretty bad. We still might want to do some research so we can get that crystal dust train filled up. But we finished with our energy shields here, and consumes up to 240 kilowatts, which is significant. Of course, we do sometimes fight biters at night, but since we're solar powered, we're not going to really be able to do much during the night. But let's make another modular armor here, and basically have a separate set, because there's kind of no point in messing up this one, which is pretty well balanced and works, when we only need the energy shields every once in a great while when we actually go out to fight biters. So I don't really see the need to have one setup do everything at the current moment. Well, of course we're going to want night vision and the energy shield. So we can put that like right there. Night vision like right there. And then the correct balance of batteries to solar panels, I think, is about a 2-to-1 ratio. So this one might actually be a little short on batteries here, because it's one set, one set, one set. So yeah, it probably could stand to have an extra battery in there. Maybe move this around to make it look a little nicer. There we go. Depending on how we want to design this, technically the proper ratio is 2 solar panels per 1 battery. And actually that will probably work pretty well, simply because of the size of the batteries and whatnot that we can put in here. Because we can do solar panels basically in the middle, and then have batteries on top and bottom. Because after those batteries are at the top of the bottom, there's really nothing else you can do with the empty space, unless we don't want night vision at all. But only fighting biters in the daytime is kind of annoying, so I don't think we can rely on that. I want to hurry up and give this a shot. It doesn't have a full set of charged batteries. But if we hurry up, we can go down there and at least see how it works. It's probably going to be nighttime by the time we get there, though. Man, look at the size of those things. There's so many turrets there. Well, it's holding if you're careful. Don't let yourself get surrounded. Brutal hive. Well, that was pretty brutal. Well, it seems like the batteries last a fairly long time. They've still kind of held out. Of course, they are all about to be drained, but they never were particularly charged to begin with here. So it might be better to have a higher peak shield recharging over having the better long-term performance. Might as well pick up all these orbs. So knowing that, see, these things are just about to get discharged. But let's put another one in here. And the thing's about to be discharged. You know what? Let's go big. And see what just these 2 charged batteries will accomplish. So I'll have to give it some time. Of course, we need to be to the next day to test that. Because we gotta let them charge up first, but there's so many biters down there. I'm definitely going to have to start clearing that out soon. So how has the base been doing while we were testing that new armor? Still chugging along, slowly but surely. And we're still trying to top off this train. Alright, well in the meantime, looks like the balance of power with vehicles is a little different, where it's 2 solar panels per battery as opposed to the 1. Well, let's put a shield on here. And do something like that. I think the crawler can take an energy shield too, but I don't know if that would fit necessarily. It might, but we'll worry about that later when we're actually near the crawler. So what else can we do? Well, we could upgrade our turrets here, because we'll definitely want to be making the better ones once we upgrade the bus. And also, there's long-distance sniper turrets as well. Well, we haven't really used Explosives 1 for much, but you could upgrade it to Explosives 2, which is a use for that glycerol liquid that we've been holding on to, and sulfuric and nitric acids. So when we do start making explosives, we'll want to use that recipe. So we can kind of hit that, but we're kind of at the limit here. And I think we're going to have to make do with what we've got if this doesn't work. Let's see, one last thing we can do is nitroglycerin, which is the same ingredients that went into explosives, and it goes into making the high quality ammo. but we'll grab that to be prepared for it later. Other than that, I'm not seeing a whole lot we could research. So I think we are stuck with the bus like it is. It's just about caught up. And this train is getting there. But we might just have to deal with the fact that the train is only partially full. I mean, that's fine. It's just the whole process starts with a partial train. As long as we have access to some resources, we'll be able to get it started, and sulfuric filled up, so we can check everything. We've got glass, cellulose, alien bacteria, and then that dust to make the seeds. We've got the silicon powder, carbon, steel, and then that dust which could make powder if we need to. And then finally, we will add the seeds to the fish water to get the splinters, cut them up into the individual colors, use those grinding wheels, make crystal slurry with the sulfuric acid, and then finally, boom, we will have the splinters. So it looks like we finally got all of the intermediate processes set up here, so we'll be able to finish this build. One thing I kind of noted, it's not much of a problem now because the factory's basically caught up, but these 2 inserters per car aren't really fast enough anymore. This station was calculated as doing 2.5 belts a second, but it needs to make 2 different stops, so it pretty much needs to be double that speed because it has to load and unload in that period of time. So we probably need to upgrade all of these and their associated stations as well, the mining outposts. When the sun comes back up and this gets charged, we'll have to try the next set of armor and see how that charges. Okay, let's get all these things upgraded. It's going to be kind of problematic, considering there's so many resources here. Get these bigger ones in here. It's a little zigzaggy to do it this way, but that way the alignment stays where it is. It's always a little annoying switching these things around because of all of the resources you end up having in your inventory. However, gotta get this limited correctly to the 6 slots, or these 6 rows, which is the capacity of the train. Okay, that half of the setup is fixed. Now I gotta do all the individual mining outposts. The other ores are probably fine. It's basically just sapphirite that's running a little behind here. But might as well upgrade all of them. I mean, it could also be that the sapphirite patch is getting too light. Because as you can see, it's looking pretty bad now. Can't even put out 2 belts a second right there. And it's at 17%, so not great. So we'll do another copy of the train station, so you can apply this to the other ones. And just in time. Okay, this one piece of equipment is charged. Let's see how much we can charge this other one. Seems like it's charging pretty fast, but probably better to wait until it's fully charged before we go after some biters again and see how it works. And I think that does it for all the mining depot upgrades. Okay, it's daytime again. Let's see if we can test this new armor. Well, the shooting upgrades are nice. Seems like it's holding out. It's definitely consuming energy. It's so fast. I mean, seems to work. It can only do it for so long. But that's how solar panels are. Seems pretty good. And it's charging up now. I approve. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to design our crystal production. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.